Everything we know, from people and ants to stars and galaxies to quarks and atoms, the entire universe, might just be a simulation running inside a supercomputer inside an even bigger universe. Ancient philosophers said that the universe is a dream that we're waiting to wake up from. In this dream world of the imagination, anything is possible. All cultural items, from the dreams of our rodent-like ancestors, to books, to television shows, are merely permutations of the reality we think we live in. Today's age of computers and video games places simulations at the center of our cultural consciousness. A select group of us perform simulations for fun and profit, and we call them games, role-playing and otherwise. We live to run simulations. Join us on the Simulationist podcast as we explore our culture of simulations.
Hello once again, everybody out there. This is the Simulationist podcast, iteration 45, July the 14th. I am Josh Treleaven.
I am Ryan Kirkby,
and
welcome. So, Josh, what have you been doing this week?
Oh, just getting right into it. What have I been doing? I'm doing lots of things kind of outside the house. I guess video games when I can get to them here and there, and a little bit of coding and basically double checking and double recompiling the code for Minecraft in my spare time. But also, I got out to the pub like 3 times this week, so...
well, to be fair, this is Victoria, and we've had very good weather. We have very good pubs. We don't mean to brag on that, but these are just facts. So it's understandable you got out into the pub and enjoyed 3 nights.
Yeah, that's one of them was the Skeptics in the pub, so I'll shout out to them. So they're cool people.
And they do the monthly meeting, correct?
They meet once a month at the James Bay in Victoria.
I don't believe they do that. I'm skeptical.
Well, the good thing about being skeptical is you are the sort of person who would have to go there and find out and prove to yourself if they do.
Unfortunately, while I do like gathering proof and evidence, I'm also cheap and have a kid. So I really can't get out to the pub very often. They don't accept 7-month-old people in the pub. It's apparently bad for the drinking people's desire to drink more.
Really? Having a baby around doesn't make you want to get drunk?
There's been a few times I could have wished for a whiskey shot, I'll say that. But no, generally she's just so wonderfully happy and optimistic, and enjoying whatever she's around. I get high on life. I don't need beer. I don't need my alcohol. I don't need the spirits.
Well, good for you. Good for you. That's
also, baby formula is like $45 a can, so it's either I have something to drink or she has something to drink. Okay. And seeing as how I don't know how to lactate, there's a priority system clearly in place.
Yes, the priority being research how to get males to lactate.
Apparently there are people researching that. I just don't want to look up the research on that because I'm afraid of a Google image search. And I'm not afraid to admit it.
And you're afraid you might find something that actually works, and then you'd have to actually...
Yes, if my wife found out about that, I would be in a severely awkward corner.
What, wouldn't she be, overjoyed? She'd be like...
I think she'd just be as weirded out as I am. And yet, at the other hand, we're both frugal enough to realize that's a potentially viable venue. So, yes.
Oh, how the world would change. But that's weird, and we probably should not dwell on that particular weird thing.
Yes, let's focus on more happy topics.
Different weird things. So I think that basically covers my week. It's been a fast and a blur, basically. So for me, how about you?
A blur as well. Lots of work, lots of sleep to recover from the work, and punctuated by the occasional Charlie horse. So keeps things interesting.
Okay.
But
does that vitamin deficiency do that, or?
I think for me it's not enough water, because sometimes I'll look up at the clock at work and suddenly realize, I've been doing hard labor involving my legs back and forth and around for 6 hours, and I have yet to have even a single glass of water.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's always one more thing to do. I'm that task-oriented kind of guy that... I forget one more thing to do should include maintaining proper hydration levels.
Yeah, I suppose, if you're listening to this now and you're close to some water that you can drink, you probably will
chug, 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 chug. There you go.
That's something to remember in the summertime, that you drink lots of water.
Especially if you're not in any place that's air-conditioned.
Or pop is just as good.
Well, there's still out as to whether or not it's just as good, but apparently studies have shown it's not as bad as everyone kept saying it was. Mm-hmm. It dehydrates you, worse than having nothing.
Yeah, it's still liquid, so
it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
So, that's our endorsement for anything caffeinated with, high fructose corn syrup. You're welcome, corporations of the world.
Yeah, now send us our paycheck at, just find us at the Simulationist and get a hold of us.
Yeah, you get a hold of us and we can find a way for you to send us that check.
Yeah, or just send us cases of Coke or Pepsi.
Yes, we're willing to accept endorsements in kind, so to speak. But other than that, I finished off reading the Renraku Arcology Shutdown that I've been going about for the last couple of weeks.
Yes.
And it got me on to, I freed up a little time, and I decided to experiment with a thought I had occurred in the Shadowrun system. Within the system, for spellcasters, high willpower allows you to cast spells and not suffer drain so much. You're a better spellcaster. They have a spell that allows you to increase your willpower. And then they have a device that allows you to maintain a spell without needing to concentrate on it all the time. As long as it's attached to you, it continues on automatically. So it occurred to me, could I create a character who casts spells that utilizes that spell to increase their spell casting?
Oh, great.
Kind of like a positive feedback loop.
Yeah.
And so I started working out some stuff and doing some look into it. And so I was like, okay, to really test this out, I should probably create an NPC high willpower and work this all out to see how it would actually play out. And it gives me a chance to roll some dice, have some fun.
Yeah.
And because the Shadowrun system for its character creation has steps that include who is your character, what are they like, what are they dressed like, what are their motivations, as I was creating this test NPC, they began to evolve, become a full-fledged real character, not just a test situation.
Okay.
And as that accumulated, it's like, okay, now that I've got this bit set up, what about the rest of them? He's still got some skill points, and he's got some, points to buy other spells, and I started growing a character. It wasn't just for a test case. It's like, all of a sudden, bam, now he's got a history. Now he's like a second-generation person living in the United Canadian and American states after his father left Iceland. And then all of a sudden, bam, he went to the university here, and there's stuff going on, and I'm adding up things, and yes, he's becoming a real full-fledged character. And then as I'm reading up the rules, I see other things that catch my interest. It's like, oh, and next thing I know, I've got notes on 4 magic spells I want to try creating with the system they have. I've got 3 NPC characters I want to create. Maybe they'll be viable as player characters. I don't know. I'll have to see when I get around to them.
Okay.
And 2 different organizations to work up. And it really sticks with me how much just coming at it from a natural perspective, any one angle rather than just I will create this stock generic character grows on you, because once you get it ingrained in your system, who is this character? What are they like? What are their motivations? It grows. They grow. They become more of a real person. I think it's a good idea for anybody who's doing writing when they create their characters that they're writing, before they actually write them into any scenes. Sit down, say, who is this person? Where are they coming from? What are their motivations? What are they like? Do they have nervous tics, personal habits? What's going on? Because it grows and it develops on their own if you're doing it right.
Well, you can find there are internet forums, you just download them off the internet, that will have those kind of questions for. They're designed specifically for people who are writing. Like NaNoWriMo the Office of Letters and Light puts these out as part of NaNoWriMo. It's except that NaNoWriMo, you're not supposed to be doing all that preliminary work. You're actually supposed to be writing. So.
Well, that's what you do when you're falling asleep at night. Is you think about those questions as you're letting the characters grow in your head. But it occurs to me just how much more organic this one test character. I mean, I still haven't actually run the test I originally proposed. I'm busy working on seeing if this spell would be viable within the setting, and what this organization would be like, and what's going on with these NPCs. What are their motivations? Where are they coming from? How would they interact as like potential sources for shadow runs within the game? And it's all growing, and I'm working on all these things, and it just feels more organic than a lot of the D&D characters I've come up with in the last number of years, because there are these questions ingrained. And I would really hope that the people working on D&D Next would be able to realize this is a good thing to put in just as a small note for once you're done creating your character, to help make them seem more realistic. And even if it's only like half a page, in the book, just make a note of think about sometime what your character is like, so that they're not just another fighter named Bob.
Yeah. Although, like, a small counterpoint to that, I don't actually think this, but the thought occurred to me the other day, though, is that in a game like D&D, you can have fun if you say that your character is basically like you, like as if you are the one who is going through all the puzzles and things.
There is some fun to be had there.
So you can make the character kind of basic and be like, well, I don't care about the character. It's me who's experiencing the story. So I kind of want to just act as how I would react to that dragon or whatever sort of deal. But of course, but that's fun because...
Well, yeah, there's nothing wrong with the escapist fantasy style, so long as everyone's aware of what they're doing and they don't delve too deep and then get sad when they die.
When they die, yeah.
Because it happens occasionally. Especially, Lord knows, in Shadowrun, they die. So don't make your character be your grandson within the reality of the future. Because then you feel really bad that your bad dice rolls killed your grandkid.
Well, there's a little bit of emotion in the game.
But you can get the emotion in there from it being just the character you created, the organic feeling. Yeah. Like, this test character I had that originally had no name suddenly became, Gander Evaldason. And yes, he's a professionally trained hermetic mage, and I've got all these things going on, and I could do all sorts of stuff with this test case now that he's grown into an organic, real character. He's become a real boy.
But though, what would you do if it turned out that character was broken now? Like, if your exploit worked, what would you like?
Well, first thing I do, because I'm utilizing the 3rd edition stuff, I'd find a quick copy of like 4th and 5th edition and see if they fixed this. Yeah. Because if I'm not mistaken, the 5th edition technically hasn't been fully published yet. So if I can get word in, say, dude, this is really broken, you guys got to find a way to like tweak this a little bit. Mm-hmm. I would like to, because I have seen some other stuff that they've put out for creating like magical styled items. Focuses is what they're called in that thing.
Okay. Yeah.
I've noticed that if you set like the target number lower, because you have an option of doing that, it's target number times your successes. Now the lower the target number, the more you're going to roll successes. You technically get more out of doing an easier job than for doing a harder job. So it actually works out with... Because I did some quickly in my head as I was reading this up, some math. It's like, if I was to make it really easy, I get more product than if I was to make it moderately hard. And that seems like, there should be more reward for more risk. Because if you don't get any successes, congratulations, you just blew a month doing nothing, buddy. But, so if I'd like to look that up, and if I can, help them fix out the problem, then congratulations. I've made the game a little bit clearer, a little bit more fair, a little bit more balanced.
Yeah, if you contribute a little bit that way, that'd be cool. Yeah.
And, there's some other stuff I could do, like seeing, if the people that are decking into the Matrix, and putting the jacks in their head and going into the cyber world, what happens if they have, a spellcasting character to help them avoid the ravages of negative biofeedback that can literally kill them? You can be in the Matrix of the future and have a program send you lethal feedback and you will die. You will literally die. It attacks you, not your program. They call it black ice. Because it's cool sounding that way. Yeah. But what if you had someone in the real world, keeping track of your comatose body? It's like, oh, he's bleeding again. Magical healing, and then you're back okay. Does that actually work? I'd like to experiment with that too. So once I get done with this, if I find it's broken, there's some other areas I'd like to test out, see how well it works.
Okay, so yeah, sounds fun.
For me, at least. I'm the kind of guy that likes to tinker around with the system as much as I like to play a game.
Okay.
That's me. And well, that's where I get some of my better characters out of there, is just seeing what happens. It's like, okay, no, it didn't work, but you know what? I created a really sweet character. I'm going to save them for whenever I'm playing in the future.
Cool.
So yeah, I was able to really dig it, and that was my big thing this week, is realizing that as long as you come at a character concept from almost any angle, as long as you approach it with a zeal, passion, you can create wonderful characters out of it. Just things, characters you really want to play, characters you can really feel for.
That's good. That's good.
And that's why, if I do ever get a chance to play this mage, as soon as he's half dead, he's running away. I don't want him to die. I actually feel for it. It won't be just, oh, I've got 2 boxes of health left before I go into lethal damage. It's like, no, dude, I'm nearly dead. I'm getting the heck out of here. Invisibility, run away. Because, yeah, I made sure to put that on him, too.
Oh, yeah.
I actually have improved invisibility, so he remains invisible even to mechanical sights.
I see.
So, just in case anybody with cyber eyes is going to try hunting him down. No, he's still invisible. You can't shoot at him without blind shooting. Ha ha.
Yeah.
I like to back up. I like to make sure my characters have a retreat plan just in case.
Very good.
But yes, so that was my big thing this week, is a chance to test it. Well, there were some other little things, but we might come to them later on, or maybe next week, as I mentioned them, as fuel for topics.
Of course, of more conversation. Very good.
Sis, we do have a main topic this week, as we always should.
Yeah.
This one actually comes from the news story that wasn't in the news this week. Those who may know or may not know, depending how far in the future you are listening to this, the royal baby did not get born. At least not within the last hour or so we spoke of this. I haven't checked the news, but I don't think anything's happening now. But according to the odds makers, the royal odds makers who were taking bets on this, the most likely date was back on the 11th. No baby. Yesterday was apparently the official due date, as far as anyone was able to determine. The royal house hasn't actually put out an official due date, because they don't appreciate that level of prying.
Of course.
But of course, but here's the thing, is the kid isn't even born yet. Prince or princess, not even born, and already famous. Already people are hanging on, watching anything that happens. If any member of related to the royal family buys a bassinet, this bassinet sales go through the roof as everyone buys for whoever else is going to have a kid. You're getting the kind of basket that a prince or princess is fit for. And so this kid is more famous than you or I may likely ever be. One, that's a little sad. On the other hand, it's kind of groovy. But that brought me to thinking. You don't see this kind of fame and notoriety in a lot of other genres in fiction. Like, your D&D character may save the world, sometimes repeatedly, but do they have fans at their beck and call? Do they, every time they enter a town, do they have fangirls fainting over the sight of them?
Well, I have seen that in a game before, or not seen, but heard it described, because D&D is a verbal game. Yeah,
but it's not the same sort of thing as something like the royal family in a D&D setting. Like that isn't perceived of as being that noteworthy. That, oh my God, this sort of thing has happened. Send out the news. Birds or whatever magic they're using to get information from A to B.
Yeah, well, in one way, it's a modern phenomenon to have cheering crowds and swooning crowds and all that thing. That happens in the modern era. And back before they had photography, it's here's somebody, but nobody knows what he looks like. Of course, if it was the prince or royal, they would have basically a parade to be yeah, this is the prince, everybody, and it could totally be a different guy. But if he was dressed up as a prince, okay.
Oh, so that used to be the old-fashioned version of the body double sort of thing, then.
Sure. Well, yeah, of course.
This person's famous. People might try and shoot them. We'll send out a fake. He looks close enough so if anybody actually sees him later on, they'll say, oh, it must be because I saw you at a distance.
Yeah.
You look different.
And do you ever see those movies with like the pharaoh in them, or the the emperor of Persia or whatever?
The surprisingly Caucasian emperor or pharaoh. Yes, I've seen that in a few occasions.
In the movie 300, I think the guy.
Yes,
I mean, he's pretty tall, and he's like basically looks godlike, but sort of
kind of creepy too. But that's another thing for another day. I suppose when you're godlike, you have to be kind of creepy.
Yeah, but if he's like wearing masks and stuff, and then it doesn't matter who's behind it. It's just you just have to.
Instead, he's this man with a lot of piercings and a loincloth
yeah.
on the top of a really sweet statue.
Yeah.
So, but I do know that in a lot of situations, a lot of campaign styles, you don't see this sort of thing. Yes, Gimli and Legolas and Aragorn are very good at like stopping orcs and all that. And yes, 2 hobbits did technically save the world by bringing the ring to Mount Doom, but they don't have like huge fans going, "Woo, you saved the world! Marry me, Sam! Marry me!" No, they go back home and then they're just seen as these guys that have a tale, and that's kind of negatively perceived by some of the old folks. But generally, everybody has fun with it, and they tell the story at wherever the next time they're out with a lot of people around.
Yeah, well, that was partly kind of the point that Tolkien was trying to make about the Shire, was that the Shire was deliberately insular and closed off to the outside world.
But how does that affect with the other ones? Is from what I've been told, is Aragorn winds up reuniting all the empires of man and doing all sorts of great, amazing things. Mm-hmm. But he's still not, described as the kind of person everyone's jumping over each other to see when he goes out, like on his horse, with the royal family or doing stuff together.
I don't know if there was a scene like that in the movie, but I think in the book, I mean, he's the king, so yeah, they do parades and all that stuff.
But it's not seen it to the same hyper degree that you see in reality these days, which admittedly is the result of many years of intensive media scrutiny and this positive accumulation of it's got to be this, and it focuses some of the people's attention that way. So they have to know about these people's lives. They have to get these people rooting through the celebrity garbage so that you can find out everything about them.
Well, the thing about our modern world too is we have things like newspapers, we have writing, we have a literate population who's able to read about.
Which technically they have in D&D. Unless you're a barbarian, you're literate. It's a surprisingly highly literate population, which I do believe if you work the numbers, because I think I did the calculations out on this, for any major city with the population demographic breakdown, they have a higher literacy rating than most of the G7 countries. So take that reality.
Okay, I think I'd probably not have that be the case in my campaign worlds, but okay.
But yeah, it's the default thing is assume that people know how to read in D&D. So you could have these magazines popping up all over places. You could have like a tabloid, rag. Heck, if you want, you could have some fun with some penny dreadfuls where they wind up effectively ripping off the personality of the PCs to tell their own stories about how they kill vampires weekly. I don't know.
Yeah, well, that would be amusing. That would be an interesting thing to add to your campaign, for sure.
But the thing is, I really don't see that for anything except maybe the Ravenloft setting. But that's only because Ravenloft has a lot of culture in it. And so that's where I would see them actively making and selling books and penny dreadfuls. As opposed to, say, the Dragonlance setting. I don't see that being very big.
Yeah, well, and because it's the Dragonlance and things like Forgotten Realms are sort of based on medieval Earth, like pre-printing press Earth, where, writing...
But they do have magic, so you can effectively have, like, magical scribes transcribing everything.
Well, but the thing about magic is, yes, you have it, but you don't have, like, whole industries of scribes. Otherwise, that would be just a parallel to the industry of the printing.
But you can totally do that. You can totally make a magic item that does it. I've made a few over the years that can copy books from A to B and transcribe. Not good for artwork. I was never able to find a way to copy artwork, but generally just transcribing, I was able to make sure that gets done.
Okay,
so non-illuminated manuscripts would still be highly valuable and rare, but if you just need the information copied over, I was able to make that work.
Okay.
I never got a chance to play that out in a campaign, though. That never went long enough. I would have liked to have tried it, though.
So this was under some DM who said this is possible or this is impossible?
Yeah, it says, okay, the magic spell base works, the cost all effectively works out, but the campaign never ran long enough for me to make it happen. Yeah. Which is a shame, because that would have been kind of fun to see how it leads to.
Yeah, and I think this is part of the reason why technological type stuff doesn't take off in the world of D&D is because the lives of heroes are short and often fraught with ADD or
ADD in D&D. That's a mouthful. But the sad world of fact is that many worlds wind up in suspended limbo forever.
Yeah.
Which is tragic and slightly poetic.
Yeah. Maybe it's not tragic because that world, it might have been frozen, but at least it was going somewhere, and the people don't know they're frozen, so as far as they know, they think they're still in a universe that is progressing. And for all we know, our universe might have just frozen for 1 billion years, a second ago, and then just started up again.
No, I think if that was to happen, there'd be a sense like, no, it's not everything is quite right. They're not getting... Okay, now we're back on track. They've got the tone of everything again.
But don't you ever get deja vu? That's what that is. It's the Matrix being rebooted after 1 billion years of being shut down.
Is deja vu supposed to come with a weird taste in your mouth? Because I've noticed whenever I'm getting deja vu, it tastes a little weird. Apparently it affects all my senses. I taste something I've tasted before, too.
You might have synesthesia of some kind then, perhaps.
But I've noticed only when I'm getting deja vu. Like we've all had this conversation exactly like this before. They say this, retort over here, goes like this, and kind of like mothballs in my mouth.
Oh, well, I personally have not experienced a taste at deja vu, but that is interesting. But yeah, I'm saying we've just been frozen for 1 billion years.
Well, 1 billion years to someone. It's all relative.
Yeah, exactly. Well, time is relative.
But I do like to think it's tragic in the sense that the campaign ended. Everybody wanted to keep going, but semester ended, so many people moved away, or just wasn't time for it anymore. Well, the usual explanations for how it goes.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
So that's how I see it as tragic in that it wanted to keep going, but there were other circumstances. But slightly poetic in that it was, and then just was preserved, almost like a painting in the minds of those who played it.
Yeah.
But yes, getting back to the whole fame issue,
right,
though,
fame.
is I just don't see it to the same degree. It almost seems as though in our real reality, the issue of fame is a unique thing. It's a built construct that's developed over time that doesn't exist in fiction. At least not, except for the fictions that tend to involve that as a specific plot point.
Okay, yeah.
Dan Brown's character winds up doing all sorts of great stuff, but he doesn't have hordes of slavering fans, some of which creep into the room and try and steal articles for souvenir. That happens in real life. People will sneak into celebrities' places, they're staying at this wonderful hotel. The maid gets a decent bribe, unlocks the door, the people comes in, steal a shirt, bam. That's a souvenir they keep. That happens, man. That's creepy, but it happens.
Yeah, okay.
But you don't really hear about things like that in fiction. So it's almost as though the fame that we know of, like the hyper celebrity fame, where everyone's watching you, exists solely within this reality, the same way some tropes only exist within fiction and you don't see it in reality.
It could be. I mean, you'd have to do a survey to see if nobody's ever written about fame.
Well, I'm sure people have, but that sort of thing tends to be only included when it's a specific plot point relevant to what the storyline that they're trying to tell.
Well, you don't...
Like a morality tale, like if Rod Serling were still alive, and doing stories for hopefully another series he's doing on TV, because I love the way he speaks, and I kind of imagine him being eternal, always making new series of wonderful shows to put on TV for people to be entertained by. But I'm certain if he was to do it nowadays, if he was alive, he would only bring in this hyper-sensationalized, everyone wants to know everything you're doing sort of fame, only when it became a plot point for the story to tell you fame isn't always what it's cracked up to be, or whatever moral lesson you're supposed to learn this week.
Okay, because, well, the thing is, like, that sort of story is a little bit icky, and it's a little bit messy, and it's kind of like, well, you don't see characters going to the bathroom in most fiction. I mean, unless it's important to the story.
I do recall one video game where that's how you saved. That was kind of a nice touch.
Is that Earthworm Jim or something?
No, it was some sort of...
No,
it was some sort of Japanese game. I never actually played it, I just heard about it. But it's a nice little touch, making a nod to, people actually do use the bathroom.
Yeah, so yeah, sometimes it's just the little pieces that we don't really want to think about too much, and and we have those creepy stalkers and things that we don't want to think about unless it's an actual, like, important to some story, right?
But it just seems as though you could have the characters within the various, forms of fiction save the Earth, do these wonderful, huge things, do amazing things, do just mind-boggling things that should give you a devoted fan base, and then they don't have a fan base. They're just another nobody. Then the next time you read about them, and if they want to get themselves into a wonderful, celebrity, we'll say nightclub or something like that, they have to work or break themselves into it. It's not something they just get because, like, oh yes, I remember you. You stopped the asteroid last week that was going to destroy us all. Well, yeah, come on in.
I don't know, Iron Man, definitely. Did you see the latest Iron Man?
No, sadly. I'm waiting for it to hit the Roxy Classic Theater so I can catch it in 2D so it doesn't hurt my eyeballs.
But anyways, there have been 3 Iron Man films recently released, and have you seen any of them?
Well, yes. Okay. I do know at the end of the first one he comes out publicly with his personality. Spoiler alert! Yeah. Don't care. You should have seen it already.
Yeah, but that's one of the things that they do with the Iron Man character is that he is famous and people like him a lot. Like,
he's a public superhero, as opposed to someone like Superman who keeps the private identity.
Yeah, so he's similar to, like, a movie star or rock star in that sense, which is why they like to compare Robert Downey Jr. because he is this movie star who's very big and very handsome and very likable. Not big as in a person, but big as in celebrity big.
I must say they definitely chose right. For all the people they could have had in Hollywood play Tony Stark, I think they really got the nail on the head with him.
Yeah, because he, like...
Well, there's also the story arc about the drinking issue that Tony Stark has had off and on throughout the comics, and they were able to bring that in. Just a nice quick reference. They didn't make it linger too much in the second movie, but if you want somebody to accurately portray drinking problem and overcoming it, Robert Downey Jr., there's your guy to go to.
Well, there's definitely a nice parallel with the character and the actor, which is always nice to have in a movie.
Well, it definitely, if you know what the character is supposed to be going through, the actor is definitely able to present so much more realistically that way. Which is why I actually like that Grown Ups movie with Adam Sandler and his friends.
Because they're doing a Grown Ups too.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one yet. I'll see what I can do about maybe getting a babysitter and taking my wife to see that, because she really liked the first one too. But what we both noted about that movie was when all the guys are there and joking around and laughing, it wasn't fake laughter. It wasn't ha ha ha, like I am an actor laughing. No, it was 4 guys having fun laughing, and you could tell that's real laughter. That's the laughter of 4 friends goofing off, enjoying it. Yeah. And that really sold it. The audience really responded to that. They were able to see that, okay, the setup wasn't that good, but these guys had a lot of fun enjoying it, and so I suppose it was kind of funny. I'll laugh along real too. And it really did help the movie along. Otherwise, I would have put the movie down as something like, well, I suppose if it's on TV, see it. No, man. If you have the opportunity to rent, or borrow a copy of Grown Ups, do it. Watch it. It's good stuff because they're having real fun.
Okay. Well, yeah, because I've heard some negative reviews of Grown Ups, but those are coming from dumb people who...
Well, okay, I'll say this. There was no way it was going to win a lot of awards. It wasn't going to be the mind-blowing summer blockbuster that really makes you rethink your life. No, man, it's a fun movie with guys goofing off, getting back together again after so many years apart. And they were friends, and they really did feel like friends, because in reality they're all actually friends, and so you can tell from their body language and how they're goofing off with one another. They've got that closeness to them.
Good. Yeah. Okay. Well, that sounds like a one to put on the list.
Well, definitely. But I suppose with Blockbuster closed around the country, I can't say it's a must-rent movie. So see it any which way you can legally see it. And see the sequel in the theaters. If it's as good as the first one, it's definitely a nice, mindless 2 hours of entertainment. Which is all you should really ask out of most movies anyways. But, I mean, Adam Sandler gets huge amounts of fame. Adam Sandler apparently has creepy people on him. And he's just a comedian.
Okay, yeah.
And yet you can have all these things, where you've got, the famous singers, unless it's something like Death Clock in the thing, you don't have the singers or the entertainers have these huge followers. They're not as well known. It seems as though there's almost a disconnect from the character, that if you want to make them relatable to the people reading or watching, they have to be at some level kind of a nobody.
Okay, yeah, they have to be accessible to the person and let them in. Yeah, okay.
Even though, let's face it, a lot of these people or a lot of these characters exist as escapist fiction. It's like, I don't want to be me. If I wanted to be me and experience that, I'd go out and be me. I will watch this celebrity doing celebrity stuff and having all sorts of fun. Which is why I was able to dig Zoolander for a movie.
Okay.
Because he actually did have the fans, and it did seem like the celebrity stuff. Whenever he went places, people were noting with him and trying to buddy up to him. It felt like he was an actual celebrity in the weird little Zoolander world he existed in.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. It might be that, people, I don't know, these people in Hollywood and whatever who are creating scripts and creating movies and stuff, maybe it's just that, their real life, actual life with fans and stuff is, they don't consider that real. And it's kind of a breakthrough when somebody actually makes a movie about something like that, like the paparazzi or the weird people who...
Well, that's an interesting thing you said, that even the people in Hollywood don't see the fans as being a real thing. So that even by the fake levels of Hollywood, the whole in-depth fan thing is still seen as so vapid and shallow, it's fake for them. Which is saying something. That's interesting.
Well, but no, because I think that Hollywood people are real people, and I think that
they can lead very physical, heavy, and emotionally shallow lives. So it's been fairly well documented throughout the decades.
I think we all can, but when anyone goes to Hollywood, this is my perception of it, because I have never experienced it. But when someone goes, they find a world in which there are a lot of fake things, and there are a lot of weird happenings that happen around them that wouldn't otherwise happen in a normal life.
From what I've been told, there is an interesting sub-society set up within the Hollywood area of trying to get the fame, get the attention, and project the image rather than actually be the person you want to be.
Yeah, and that's all part of the game.
Which is a really weird game when you think about it. It's almost like one of those creepy things where in the end, when you finally made it, you realize you have to maintain this persona for the rest of time or get outed and lose it all. And so it's like deep within inside yourself, you're screaming in terror at the prospect of having to be this fake person for the rest of your life. But no one can ever hear you, lest you lose the illusion of fame and celebrity and become a real person and shatter and fall from grace.
Yeah, and it's funny because when you see a celebrity break down or lose their temper or something like that, I think that's the real person kind of showing through or whatever, you know what I mean?
Or at least the real person on a bad day. Because let's face it, people have bad days sometimes, including, the fake celebrity people.
Yeah, exactly. And then everybody...
Next thing you know, you shave your head or scream at somebody on set.
Well, yeah, and everybody jumps on them for some sort of bad behavior that they did, and they're like, oh, you're such a horrible person. Well, I mean, that's something that sort of normal happens to people. They become jerks sometimes.
Well, I'll say this. I don't condone Christian Bale's real chewing out of that guy on set who had apparently his phone go off or whatever it was. I was able to see where he's coming from. This is his work. This is his dedication sort of thing. This is what he's doing for his lifestyle. and it is seemed like a little condescending for somebody to just act like it's nothing. I'm doing my own thing here. I can see where it's coming from. He did play his hand a little aggressively on that, but I'm able to at least sympathize. I'm not willing to condemn as much as some people did.
I don't know if condemn. Make fun, I can see, because he did sound.
Some people did
stupid.
condemn him for sounding, like just an uptight, self-pompous jerk, as some of the words I heard being called of him. I don't see that. Maybe he was a little tense because, from what I've been told, if you get deep into your character and somebody breaks it, that's not an easy thing to get back. It's into the mental zone. And so that can really throw you for maybe an hour, 2 hours, and that's 2 hours of a day shooting you lose.
Yeah, and it might not be him that cares so much, but there are a lot of people on set who that's their job. And that, if you lose 2 hours, that either means that they're going to be there 2 hours later on that day, or 2 hours the next day,
or somebody has to write up and explain why there was 2 hours of nothing happening in the day, and then when the higher ups see their explanation for it, it's like, really, I want some real answers from you, buddy. So it does have some interesting fallout all amongst various people. So that's definitely one of the reasons why I can see why Christian Bale was getting so upset. Still can't understand Mel Gibson's attitude, though.
Wait, what?
You didn't hear the stuff on Mel Gibson, though, with his bad days?
Well, like yelling at his kids and
the anti-Semitic remarks and the anti-African American community remarks and.
Okay, well, and again, I think these are just normal people who have normal problems, and then they're shot up to celebrity status, and then people. I mean, of course.
Yeah, wouldn't it be nice if they actually had some sort of refinement process where you purify yourself of these bad habits as you become famous to prevent these horrible situations from happening?
Okay.
It's like, dude, you've hit this level of celebrity. You got to go to a quick retreat, meditation, psychiatric evaluation, and then once you get cleared on all these levels, you're back in the scene and you're allowed to propel your status up to the next point.
Why do I see that as being basically Scientology?
Well, I suppose it does have some interesting allegories to it. But I'm thinking of it much more in the positive way, because let's face it, everyone's got baggage. Everyone's coming with something in their system. And if you get yourself into a good psychologist, at least for like a mental health checkup, that should be about the same as going into for a physical health checkup. You do it every once in a while just to make certain there's nothing building up like some sort of personality cancer developing in the back of your persona.
Oh, that sounds horrible.
And yet you can clearly see what I mean when I say it, right? It's like that horrible like character flaw that as you become more famous and it just starts growing, just you don't even have to become famous. It can just develop and fester as life goes on. And the next thing you know, you see somebody wearing sandals with socks, and you just flip out on them like they're the Antichrist.
Well, I can imagine it. That's not exactly how I think it really is, but
no, I'm doing a little hyperbole here for the sake of clear visual impressions.
So yeah, this is what fame does to people, and famous characters, and yeah.
And I wouldn't mind seeing something like that, like the fallout of becoming, a notorious character, and maybe it'd be very much interesting to see characters, have a situation where yes, they saved the world, but then they purposefully hide their identity as to who saved the world, so that they don't have to, focus with all these people imitating them, trying to do what they do, and just otherwise interrupting their peace of mind and life.
Yeah, well, you do get some celebrities who seem to manage to not really be noticed. It seems to be like, especially the comedians and the male comedians, if they're, on a certain level, they can be like just normal guys.
I've been told almost all, celebrities, when it comes to the comedic arts, are able to go down the streets and not get a heck of a lot of people coming up to them.
Yeah.
Until you hit the level of like Seinfeld and that sort of thing.
Yeah, or Steve Martin or something like that.
Yes.
Everybody's wild and crazy guys.
Oh, come on, though. You got to admit, every once in a while he does get a little smile out of that. Especially nowadays. Wild and crazy guys. And you just, okay, yeah, you did that pretty good. It's nice to know people still remember the character.
I don't know. I hope he enjoys it. He probably does. I mean, you hear that from those guys, too, often, is that they really appreciate the fans. Even after all these, especially after all these years, they appreciate people enjoying their work. So that's always good to see people, because you sometimes hear about celebrities who like they don't care for the fans, or like, yeah, I did that, but the fans
that was
are
something I did 20 years ago. I've been doing new stuff since. Can you please let it go? Like Mark Hamill is a little
Did you do that?
peeved. He likes to focus on, I'm doing this now. Can we please, like not focus on me being, Luke Skywalker for the rest of my life? And that's why he does other big notorious roles like the Joker. Yeah, he was for the long time the Joker, and my goodness, can he do an insane laugh.
Well, I should point out, too,
Delicious.
about this is the thing we were talking about, celebrities being kind of normal people, is that that's a normal reaction to be like, well, I'm not working on that anymore. That's not me anymore. Or something, having that reaction is a totally reasonable way to feel. And yet, if you react a certain way, everybody in the news and stuff will be like, oh, he's such a jerk, like he doesn't appreciate his fans or his success, and so that's kind of unfortunate that one incident can lead.
He refused to sign my autograph when I went up to him and he was dining with his family. What a jerk.
Yeah, so that sort of thing happens. So, I mean, I don't know, is there an answer to that? Well, we're not here trying to psychoanalyze celebrities. We're trying to analyze how we can tell better stories about celebrities. Which is
the interesting thing, though, because for, I guess, a good many stories, the story ends shortly before they would get all the fame and notoriety. Yes, Neo has managed to save the world from, the inevitable eternal conflict between man and machine, and they can realize a better united brotherhood, or whatever they were going to wind up calling it. Mm-hmm. But the movie ends there, and he's dead, so he doesn't have to worry about fame or notoriety or anything like that.
Yeah, it brings me back to
Iron
Man.
Spoiler warning, by the way. You should have either seen it or not cared.
Which reminds me of Iron Man once again, though, is because the third movie, he's a big deal. Like, everybody's surrounding him, trying to take his picture and everything, and all that.
So it just seems very, very much like its own thing that only exists within reality still. I just can't pin it down as to why.
And Iron Man.
Well, okay. Well, that's the thing. Is with the Iron Man thing, it's directly meant to show that one thing. It only gets included when it's supposed to become just like reality. But it's just not something that tends to grow out of the stories, if only because the story usually ends shortly after.
Yeah.
Don't spoil this for me. I don't know how the last Harry Potter ends, but he started out at least mildly infamous as the boy who survived. And that got him a little bit of press and play and a little bit of unwanted attention. But after the whole thing ends, I don't know how famous he was or how he was able to deal with celebrity wizard fame if he did survive. I don't know. I'm still got to go find that last movie.
Yeah,
I still got to see the final two movies. The last book they split into two parts.
Right.
I'd rent it, but Blockbuster doesn't exist anymore.
I wonder if it has something to do with the people writing it, because when you're slaving away on a novel or a book or whatever, you tend to be like in obscurity, and then you publish it, and then you get famous. Like, J.K. Rowling. Although I don't know what she looks like, so
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen some stuff. Seen her do some.
And when she
interviews.
goes out in public, though, does she get mobbed or?
Not to the same degree. Although apparently she's done the voice, audio recordings for some of her books. Mm-hmm. Some people recognize her by how she sounds.
Yeah.
I do know there are other voice actors who encounter that problem too.
Good. Well, I hope that people start recognizing our podcasting voices. That'd be kind of cool.
To some degree. I mean, it'd be a little awkward at work, as say, hey, see that funny thing you said back in podcast number this, and it's like, whoa, I can barely remember the topic of that one. No.
Oh, but no, I'm just being silly.
You never know. But well, see, the voice actors one is a very interesting, I guess, sub-fame thing, because people won't exactly recognize what the person looks like, but they know that sound, they know that voice. Like, as I was coming over here today, I was flipping through the radios for something that wasn't a top 40s hit that I'd heard 5 to 10 times already this week.
Okay.
And so I go through and, oh, hey, Northwest Public Radio, they usually have some, classic music. No, it's not classic music playing. I know that voice. That's John Lithgow. He's telling a story, and I was able to instantly get his voice.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And I admit, I like his voice. The way he speaks, his intonations, his ability to instantly slip into a character's voice, masterful stuff. I want him to do a lot more voice acting.
Did you just blow him a kiss?
I did blow him a kiss. I love his voice acting skills. I love him so much, I will kiss his skills. But not him himself, because that would be a little awkward.
Kiss his skills.
I kiss his skills and his talent, which is what I truly love about him.
His ability to tie a knot and to row a canoe, that kind of...
I really don't know much about his personal life, so I can't say if I truly love him. For all I know, he could be a real horrible person. But I do know his skills, I do know his talent, and I've heard him recite some of the toughest passages of Dr. Seuss, like absolutely perfect, not a slouch, not a skip, not a stutter. So I kiss his skills.
Very good. What were the point? Oh yeah.
But I was able to instantly get it. That's his voice,
Yeah,
and so
we recognize voices. Yeah.
I assume he's aged, like all people age. So even though I recall him very well from some of his older movies, Raising Cain, and from his TV series, Third Rock from the Sun, he might not look how I remember him. Because every once in a while I will see a photo of a celebrity I haven't seen in a while and go, whoa, who is that guy? Oh my God, did they get old? Oh. It's been 15 years. Oh, they aged. Oh, that means I've aged.
William Shatner?
He's aged pretty darn decently, especially in the last 10 years. Okay, yeah, he's a little rounder than when he was Captain Kirk. Apparently he's wearing a toupee. But whatever. He's not like horribly decrepit and falling apart like you occasionally see with some people. I won't name names because I don't like saying you look ugly or anything.
Okay, we're not naming names. Oh, I was going to start.
It tends to be in the eye of the beholder. What you think has been horribly aged, I think may have been a crude, wonderful personality in the face. They could really play this sort of character better now. So I guess it's very much a judgment call on each person. So I won't name names.
Okay.
But I look at them and go, wow, they've aged. But if it's the same voice, I will recognize that voice.
Okay. Yeah.
So do they have that sort of problem? Does Phil Lamar, voice of innumerable characters throughout? I think most recently a lot of stuff on the Cartoon Network sort of thing. The people that bought out Hanna-Barbera. He's got voices. He's doing that stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
Does he go to like fast food? Does he go to like McDonald's late one night and he orders a burger and they go, are you
like through the drive-thru?
Yeah. Are you Phil Lamar? Are you Samurai Jack? Are you joking me?
Maybe if the person working there was you.
I like to imagine there are many people like me operating at many fast food locations throughout the known world. If only because it personalizes them for me a little bit more, and that way, I don't treat them as just a faceless nobody.
Does he live in like L.A. or something like that?
I assume he does.
Because in L.A. it's like if you work at a fast food restaurant, you work in the drive-thru, you hear a familiar voice. It's like, oh yeah, I live in L.A. There's probably a celebrity. You know what I mean? Either
you're imitating him, or you actually are Jack Nicholson, and it is. It's like, oh my God, I served Jack Nicholson, and all of a sudden you're gushing over them. They have to deal with this, because let's face it, Jack Nicholson's voice. That's a recognizable voice.
You're blowing him a kiss now.
I think he's a wonderful actor. I mean, he's portrayed a wonderful range of crazy people throughout the decades. Some sane people, but the crazy people are his most memorable one. And I think on one occasion he actually played Satan. Maybe. My memory on that movie is a little rough. But yes, his voice. People make decent comedic livings imitating Jack Nicholson's voice as part of a series of professional imitations.
So if you're working in the drive-thru late at night in LA and you hear Jack Nicholson, you probably say, oh yeah, it's just another person trying to do a Jack Nicholson impression. Whatever.
Until you get up to the front to give him the order, and bam, it's Jack Nicholson.
And bam, it's this freaky-looking old guy. Oh, that is Jack Nicholson.
Maybe. I mean, he is technically retired, I believe, at this point. So if he wants to let himself go, so to speak, he's all free to do so.
Okay. Yeah, probably enough talk about him.
But you
for us not naming names.
But I don't know what he looks like. He's not, in the scene anymore. So he's living a personal, private life. He has once again rejoined the ranks of everybody else in society. at least as much as the paparazzi are ever willing to let any celebrity go. It's kind of a free-range program, I think, is what it amounts to. But just because of his distinctive voice, he has to put up with the people all the time. Say, oh, Jack Nicholson, yeah, can you do the you can't handle the truth line?
Yeah, that's Jack.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to think about it for a second. Yeah. But and you don't see this in any sort of fiction sort of thing. If the one hacker that saves the world and announces as he's hacking all the satellite systems at once and displaying the mind the mind brainwashing program, or we'll say it's a brainwashing program, he doesn't have to deal with. That's right. I know that voice. You're the guy that outed that company who was brainwashing all the world.
You mean like Edward Snowden? I don't think anybody knows it. Well, I think there is audio of him.
There's some audio, but I'm thinking more of, just the generic movie sort of thing where, evil companies brainwashing the world with commercials. I'm making this up as I go.
So you think, like, the aftermath of that story wouldn't be something similar to what we have today with Edward Snowden? With, like, kind of the...
Well, with Edward Snowden, he was releasing information, and apparently he's still releasing it in short bursts of more information continually.
Yeah, but that would be something that
But he's not.
fictional...
But he's not broadcasting his actual voice the same way that I'm imagining people are in the movie.
Okay, you're imagining...
We're going to present to you this evidence here as I'm hacking the world's cable program. Yeah.
Okay.
That sort of thing. He doesn't have to deal with that sort of fallout. Whereas, I'm imagining you become that. I remember, actually, this week, that poor girl who was shot in the head last year because she went to school.
Yes. In Pakistan.
Yes, was it Malala?
Malala sounds like her name. But
sorry if I'm getting it wrong, but she did a wonderful speech, as she recovered, and she was saying, that they thought they could stop me, and her speech was wonderful. She had all the stuff in the right points. I listened to it 3 times. It never got old. She did the speech
in English?
perfectly. Yes, in English.
Okay.
And it was beautiful. And so I might be able to recognize her voice now. I don't know if I'd fan gush over her or anything. I would tell her she gave a masterful performance.
Yeah.
I don't know what she'd be doing in Victoria. But, I think I'd recognize the voice. So she would be an example of someone whose voice got out there. But she's got fans for her. No, it tends to be a much more political fans, not like the ravaging celebrity pop fans. So it's a bit of a different kettle of fish, so to speak.
I guess so, yeah.
Well, there are people that are deeply devoted to making sure, the progress of education for all people within this area of the world is a key factor in their lives. It's not the same as finding out what the royal baby's name is. That's 2 very separate incidences that just happen to have some interesting connections.
There's probably some overlap in the people who are interested in kind of world events, but also in entertainment. That seems to be a thing.
Or at least they like to say it's a thing. Let's face it, there are other people out there that say, oh yes, I'm very interested in the stuff, but what they're really doing is justifying their watching of celebrities and say, but I also watch this. It's like watching the History Network. It's like, yeah, I watched 3 hours of people picking through junk to find some old antiques, but I also saw some stuff on World War II, so that makes it all right, isn't it? It's all history. I'm learning.
Well, for one thing, I don't see why you have to justify.
Some people feel compelled to justify.
If I want to watch or read about celebrities, I will go ahead and do it and not feel guilty about it. Well, sometimes.
Like the people who order the really unhealthy foods, like I'm going for 2 triple cheeseburgers and then I'm going for a diet soda to make it feel like I'm having something healthy.
Okay. Yeah.
Or it's not that bad. It's somewhat healthy. Look, I got extra lettuce on there. No extra charge. Hooray! There are some people that feel compelled to explain themselves, if only to themselves, justify their actions.
Are we talking about readers now or actual publications? Because there are media outlets who will do a bit of both. Are you talking about that, or are you talking about the people?
I'm talking both ends of things, technically.
Okay.
It does seem that a lot of the newscasts will slip in this soft news story just towards the end. They've done the hard-hitting news. They've done, the wonderful local stories of what's going on. Then they do the weather, and then they do sports, and then they do little fluff story. Only in this region of Canada will you see something wacky like this. It's a cat that knows how to meow on command. Have a good night, folks. And they feel almost, compelled to find some way to make it like a news story when it's basically just some lighthearted fluff.
Yeah.
I'm willing to accept it as a nice, peaceful chaser to what is usually a bunch of sad news. So
that's right. Yeah,
that's the only justification I really need. And so long as they're able to say to themselves, okay, now to make things seem like a little bit better, like it's not a horrible world out there. Here's a guy that got his kittens to meow at certain tones, and here he is playing the bells of St. Mary with them.
That's true. And, the other thing to remember about the world is this is the point from Steven Pinker's Better Angels of Our Nature, is that our planet continues to get more and more peaceful. And even though, yes, a lot of bad things are happening constantly, we have a lot of work to do, the fact is there's less violence now than there used to be.
We're at one of the most peaceful points in time in history, especially within the advanced Western society area.
But yeah, if you watch the news, if you just kind of watch all this bad stuff happening, it feels like...
And Lord knows this week there's been a lot of bad news.
Yeah, and it gets down on you. But, at some point you got to remember that, there's a lot of good stuff going on in the world, too.
Which is why I'm okay with that one commercial that tells you to look at things from a different light. It says... It's the cameras they have up that are recording for thieves and all that catch other things too, and it shows
the Coke commercial.
Yeah, it shows them. It's like people getting food for the homeless or pushing a vehicle out of the way of a train. It's not all bad stuff. It's just bad stuff to sell stories. That's just kind of how things go.
Yeah, and I want to know, I want to hear about the bad stuff because I want us to be working on those problems. I want those to be focused on, and I want our top people and I want our population to be like, no, this is a problem. We got to focus on it. We got to look at it.
It's just like with the environment. As we've done a lot of work at keeping the environment good, and we've recovered so many species from the brink of extinction.
Yeah.
On the other hand, we could still do a lot better than we currently are. So I am okay with seeing a negative bunch of ecology-based stories as opposed to we've saved this species or we've redeemed this, because no, we actually have a long way to go. Let's not pat ourselves on the back
yet. Well, it's nice to see those every once in a while to remind you that it's not hopeless.
We are making progress. We are doing better than historically
there's
before.
A lot of work to do. Yeah.
Which is an interesting thing because I keep seeing the old programs, the old stories where it's like, oh no, there's like this giant bug is attacking. How do we stop it? It's like, Mom, burn everything, scorched earth policy. And that's how they save the day, from like plague, like zombie locusts or whatever the hell it is I'm watching late at night. And it's like, well, you guys just ruined an entire ecosystem. What were you thinking? You would never do that these days. We'd have some very highly targeted response stuff going on to hit just these target species and not do a blanket, death of everything.
Hopefully not.
Sometimes it's warranted.
If we think there's no other way, then we'll take that course of action.
I honestly would have preferred seeing some of that for the pine beetle infestation. The forest it was going through. Well, the forests do require a burning as part of their natural cycle, and a lot of them were overdue for the burn anyways. So you could have done like a select burning, like how you would stop a fire. You do a cross burn.
Oh, yeah.
And so there's nowhere for the fire to burn up, and then it burns out.
Fire break?
Yes. So if they'd been willing to incorporate something like that, they probably could have helped out against the pine beetle a little bit better than they did. Oh well.
A little late now. Maybe the next pine beetle. I don't know, in 100 years when all the trees grow back? Yeah, when they replant the pine, let them grow up old enough so that there's enough of a system for the beetle to ravage once again. But, yes, tangents! So have we talked enough about celebrity and fame? Or I think we can make a final ruling on this as to why it's seen to the degree that it exists in real life, only in real life or in fiction when they're purposefully showing this facet of reality. So a writer, or let's say a dungeon master, do you think it's advisable to include something like screaming fans.
In an ongoing
swimming.
campaign, or for characters who want to perceive themselves as being special. I know they have the whole spellfire thing as being a huge, amazing thing to have in the Forgotten Realms. Mm-hmm. So if you have a character who is using spellfire, there should be some celebrity-style repercussions to the whole thing.
Yeah. I should mention, too, about celebrity is, in a way, it's its own game. Because, yes, you can play the game of being successful and achieving, like, going into the dungeons and achieving level 20 and being the greatest wizard ever. But there's a parallel game going on with this fame in that a less powerful wizard could still be more famous just because he works on fame, because he cultivates an image, and that's its own, there's a skill to that.
He comes up with a spell that cleans and straightens people's teeth. And thus becomes much more famous because everyone knows him as the guy who made sure everyone has perfect teeth.
Well, maybe that, but it's also just that he makes the right connections with the right
He's
people.
in the right places at the right time.
He does messages to people to let them know that he's coming, and kind of build up some hype before he goes to a place and things like that.
That would be an interesting thing to try for a character. I'm the sorcerer. I've got the 18 charisma. And I'm going to try and be the biggest celebrity I can within a pseudo-medieval world.
I think that would be a really cool story to have as one of your character's side stories. In fact, that could almost be its own skill. Like, it could be a charisma-based skill. It could be like fame, just brackets charisma.
Well, I do know there's something in the epic level handbooks as to notoriety past 20th level. Just as 8 people will know you because you're that immensely powerful, but that's not quite the same thing.
Yeah, and I think there's something like diplomacy and the leadership.
Well, I suppose
skill.
you could take it all as like as factors. If you have leadership, you get a +2 to this effective, like pseudo stat of fame.
The fame skill. I like to think.
You
of
take
it
the
as
highest of these social-based skills, and then for every other skill, you got like 5 or more ranks, and you get the +2 synergy bonus to your pseudo stat. And you get a +4 if you have the leadership feat. And if you take these actions to make sure people will know you're coming and celebrate it. And, because I remember one character I had, wasn't a wizard, wasn't famous or anything, but he did have 150 gold, and I realized exactly how much booze that could buy me. And I had the entire party have a town on me. And I'm fairly certain he was remembered for quite some time after that. So there was local fame or notoriety.
Yeah, that's always good to have, especially with a small town, because the stories get told again and again and again, and it just becomes a part
Dude,
of
the last time you were here, I heard you flipped the tavern upside down. Everyone got on the west side and flipped it.
That's good, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, now that I think of that as a skill, you got to be careful, of course, because if a player in the wrong mindset could get a hold of that sort of rule and be like, oh, so I could have like 1,000 loyal fans all just following me around and
although loyal fans is an interesting up to the DM as to how it goes.
If a few of them are like stalkers, then yeah, sure.
You wake up to find somebody trimming your nails. They realize you're awake, they grab the nails they have trimmed, and they jump out the window.
Yeah, although isn't that a material component for certain scrying spells?
It is. On the other hand, it could also be just something really, really creepy someone wants to have for a souvenir. You wake up, once a month with 1x4 locks of hair missing. People snuck in during your sleep. Welcome to fame, buddy. It's got a negative side.
Well, famous people have to often hire security, so. And what else is the barbarian and the fighter going to do?
Sleep at the same time everyone else is.
Actually, yeah, usually the barbarian and the fighter are the only ones who can't. No, wait.
Although I will note, I have mentioned this, there's rules within D&D particularly that you can stay awake a number of days equal to your constitution modifier. So, like, a barbarian technically only needs to sleep twice a week. Mm-hmm. And they suffer no penalties for this, and that's kind of creepy.
So the barbarian could be your bodyguard, being awake all the time, and then you max out your charisma and whatever skills that it requires to have, like, a huge, famous following. And, you're good to go.
Okay, I'd be totally willing to experiment with that within a D&D type campaign. And I will note, playing like a card game based on just trying to be the most famous celebrity you can is something I would also try and get into. If it's not like a collectible card game, it's like you've got like everyone has the same sort of deck you play with, like the Illuminati card game was.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, if
I'd
a
play
listeners
that.
out there is into designing card games,
If you're part of Steve Jackson Games, all we're asking for right now is a thank you in the notes section.
Just give us a shout out in your notes, and you can happily use that idea.
But please send us like a free copy too.
No, we
would like that, because that way we can review it and to see how close it met our wonderful imaginary expectations. But I would totally play the Fame game.
The Fame game, the game of fame. Cool.
Yes, you're just a bunch of shallow celebrities in Hollywood. You pick from like a dozen different character things, and then you play it out. It's like, okay, I play Public Meltdown for more, public notoriety, and I'll steal that by false pregnancy scare. I totally have fun with a game like that.
And then it's like, and then I go on Oprah.
Oh, I suppose they couldn't actually use her name.
Could you not use Oprah? You could make up somebody. Orpa. Is that too close?
Well, see, that's the thing is you want to have it be close enough, but far enough away that they won't get insulted by it. So because sometimes they're a little sensitive. Like if instead of calling it Oprah, you called her Orca, she might see that as a fat joke, and then, my goodness, you're on Oprah's bad side. You are never getting anywhere in life anymore, because there's going to be so many people just saying, oh yeah, I remember Oprah spoke really bad about you.
Is she sensitive that way? I don't know.
Apparently she can be a little sensitive to public fat jokes.
Okay, so we won't make any more on this particular podcast.
On the other hand, if you just reversed the name backwards and called her Harpo, then you could splice the Oprah character in with like the Marx Brothers characters and create some sort of fun fake celebrity that does the interview talk shows.
That's a good point, except I think that she may have called their company Harpo or something like that.
Yeah, but I don't think she has the proper rights to it just as Harpo, because then what would Harpo Marx be able to do?
Well, but no, okay.
Or whoever owns the rights to anything with him.
If this theoretical game, which we're already sort of half producing, if it's described as a parody, I think you're allowed to use public figures in it.
Yes, but you definitely want to try and keep on at least their good side, especially for someone like Oprah, because if Oprah pans you, that's a lot of bad publicity. And
so
I don't
Oprah's
care what...
going to be caring about our little card game?
Well, she might make a reference to it in her Oprah magazine, about, the damaging side. Well, they wouldn't mention it specifically, sort of thing, but she could make some quick allegations that a quick nice Google search, would show, oh, yeah, they were talking about this one right here. This card game about I don't know. You'd be surprised at how incredibly
okay.
close to the heart some celebrities can take these sorts of things. I know Eminem is very sensitive on this sort of thing.
Yeah, put him in our card game.
So yeah, if you did put that in there, you'd have to make sure it's far enough away that he could say no. It's a collection of this like the rap hip hop sort of genres, personality traits combined into one.
What's Eminem backwards? Menime?
We'll call him Skittles. Skittles, the white rapper, yo.
Yeah, okay.
So that's you're one of your celebrity personality cards you could be. I'm playing Skittles, the white rapper.
Yeah. That is good, yeah.
So yeah, you have a lot of fun with that, and I would play that game. I could dig it if it's done right. I don't know if, because you got to be careful, because you can't tap a card, because that's being like a trademarked action, so you'd have to just have so many cards that refresh, and you play them at certain times.
Can't tap a card. Well, hang on,
rotating a card 90 degrees to indicate something has happened to it is actually copyrighted by Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah, but, I mean, you can, just say the card is spent or whatever, and just say in the rules, do some indication to indicate that the card is used.
But you'd have to be careful so as not to actually infringe on that, because they do have a surprising amount of card mechanics copyrighted. So I think you're still allowed to put counters or marks on them or something, or just say all cards clean off at the end of your cycle. and just keep a running tally of how many fame points you've got. Whoever gets to 20 first wins.
Yeah.
Or whatever it would be. I mean, I'm not actually designing the card game. I'm just snowballing at this point. But, you would have to be careful. Yeah.
Or you okay.
I'm snowballing because it's the heat of summer here, and I prefer the colder analogy.
Okay, yeah.
So. But, yes, there we go. That was our one thing. How much more time do we have? Do we got time for a second topic?
Another 15 minutes, so we can probably cover a second
topic. Okay. In that case, I'll include the one I alluded to at the start. Yes, this week, one of the other things I managed to do was see 2 episodes of the new Ninja Turtles series.
Ah, the new Ninja Turtles.
And this would mark, the third iteration I've seen for them on television. And I don't know how many iterations it's been in publication, because they had the Malibu comics, they had the Archie comics. I think they were working with Marvel for a while.
Yeah, and there is a new movie coming, although who knows how that's going to turn. Is that another J.J. Abrams?
No, that is sadly a Michael Bay.
Oh, Michael Bay, even worse.
Especially since his initial response to was, they're going to be aliens and not mutants at all.
Mutants is in the title.
I know, right? Apparently there was some stuff recently about him reversing that. I am able to see where he's coming about as them being aliens, and that the mutagen that made them what they are came originally from an alien race. So if you want to make them aliens from that way, they're not turtles, they just look like turtles. The mutagen doesn't mutate anybody who touches it. It transforms things into this sort of set genotype. I'd have bought that. That seems a little more cerebral than Michael Bay is known for.
I don't think he's not likely to include that sort of explanation.
As the thing goes, though, hope springs eternal. Maybe that's what he was intending for. It's like, okay, this mutagen thing was a little too wacky even for any purposes we can condone. We're to say, no, it works this way, they're alien technically.
But you're not talking about the movie, you're talking about...
No, I'm talking about the current cartoon series. Cartoon or digitally animated. I'm not too certain as to where the mix between them goes. It definitely looks like digital animation. I'm not sure how much of it was done pre-cartoon sketch and then they just fill in the blanks sort of thing.
I think I still call those things cartoons. Maybe I'm wrong too, but Toy Story and all that, I still...
We'll call them digi-cartoons. No, we can't just shorten digi because that's like the Digimon things. Okay, just digital cartoons. As opposed to traditional animation style.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with calling them all cartoons.
Alright. But I liked it, I gotta say. Now, I wasn't able to really get into it because it was only 2 episodes and I had a very fidgety baby with me. So, sometimes, I wasn't able to catch every line. But I generally liked what they did. To me, it very much seemed like they took the 1980s series that I grew up with.
Yeah.
And then they polished it. They took away the stuff that really wasn't serving the plot, like the really bad jokes that all of them would tell. They got rid of some of the more outlandish sort of elements. The jokes were okay here and there, but when they're stopping in the middle of a fight to have Raphael make a special quip, no, not that's it. Really, it didn't add to the plot at all. They were just goofing around.
Do you like that when Spider-Man does that?
When Spider-Man does it, it's actually a legitimate tactic. As he's flipping around doing stuff, he angers the enemy into doing sloppy moves. Which is actually interesting because one of the 2 episodes was on Raphael getting angry and then getting sloppy from the whole thing. And there was a scene where the other turtles are going around him with bows and suction cup arrows, and they fire the arrows, and he misses every one. Oh, yeah. No one hits him. He's dodging, he's moving, he's good.
Okay.
And then Splinter tells them to do it again and insult him as they're doing it. And so they're making insults at him, and then, he's getting sloppy. The arrows start hitting him, and the more the arrows hit him, the more angry he gets, the more arrows hit him, the worse his technique becomes. Which is a legitimate thing. When you let your emotions override your practical knowledge of skills, you get sloppy. You can see it's not just in martial arts, in any physical skill, any mental skill. And so it was actually not that bad. I quite liked it. But it seemed generally as though they polished it up, and for the first time ever, they seemed like teenagers. They acted, they know martial arts and all that. They can still, do backflips down 2 stories and land and tuck and roll.
And this isn't just because you're well past your teenage years now, whereas you weren't when you
I was 8 when the first series came out.
Initially enjoyed the Ninja Turtles.
I did enjoy it, but even back then, the jokes I could see weren't adding anything. They were just there to make sure you're laughing while you're watching the show.
Because I will say, when I was that age, I didn't really make a distinction between teenagers and adults. Like when I was, grade 8 or something, and you'd look at the seniors in school, and you pretty much thought the seniors, well, they're pretty much adults, even though they'd be 16, 17 years old. My perception as a little kid was that there's no difference.
Well, looking at it now as an adult, I was able to clearly see they have, the maturity levels of various teenagers. Yeah. Leonardo being more towards the 17, 18-year-old teenage.
Do you feel
whereas
that
Michelangelo,
the old cartoon didn't have that?
No, they all just seemed like wisecracking, skill. They didn't seem at all like there was nothing indicating that, besides their name, that they were teenagers.
Okay. That's good that they...
Maybe their desire for pizza? Maybe their desire for skateboards, but that seemed kind of like marketing.
Love pizza and skateboards and turtles
and
ninjas.
Ninja weapons. Yeah, but aside from these very nebulous things, because I mean, you see people in their 40s skateboarding nowadays. It's not not like.
Yeah, how old is Tony Hawk now?
He's in his. Yeah, he's definitely up there, especially in terms of a physical sport that can really hurt you, such as professional level skateboarding. But. So that's by no means an indicator of being a teenager, and neither is pizza. I mean, heck, we had pizza before we ate. I mean,
I like to think
you could divide our age in half, and we'd be 2 teenagers apiece.
I think I'm still pretty immature.
But their maturity levels, how they portrayed, how they acted, it definitely felt, yes, I can see them as being teenagers.
Okay.
It also helps, I suppose, that April O'Neil in this series is a teenager, too, so she's able to interact with them as a teenager, and thus seeing them act on a neutral level means, yes, if she's a teenager and she's equal to them, they're a teenager. As opposed to the adult April in the banana jumpsuit as a full-grown person interacting with them on equal terms. They don't seem much like a teenager. They're on equal terms.
Because they're turtles and they have green faces and weird faces, so you don't immediately see the age.
Although they were much shorter than her in the original one. She was like a head taller than them.
Yeah, and so, they made them taller in this one.
Well, it's kind of hard to tell because they tend to fight, robots or monsters, or there's not a lot for size comparison to really determine that. But I think
they don't fight ninjas.
Well, they do fight some ninjas, but it's a lot of action scenes, so it's not like they're standing up next to each other and one just comes up and hits them, so you can see like height level.
Ninjas tend to be Japanese, so they tend to be
Well, it's just a better thing for crouch and side style and
smaller people.
The action sequences are so much better than the original series action stuff. And because, I mean, the one thing that really got me in the original series, even when I was young, was that either Shredder was amazingly competent, like he arrives on the scene, 1 hit, 2 hit, 3 hit, 4, bam, all Ninja Turtles down. He's badass. He's a Shredder. Mm-hmm. And then other times it'd be like he stumbles over his own feet. He trips on his cape, and there goes the MacGuffin of the week. The Ninja Turtles get it. Oh, I'll get you next time, Turtles. And he runs off with his bumbling buffoon mutants or whatever he's got working with.
Okay, yeah.
So there was a huge level of discrepancy in his skill. Like sometimes he trips on his own cape versus sometimes he takes every turtle down with every move he makes.
Yeah, but you can't make this generalization not yet about the new series because you've only seen 2 episodes.
But they definitely did project. Well, they didn't show him, but they showed his technique.
Okay.
The one character in the one episode I saw was using a technique that was designed by the man who eventually became Shredder, and they were commenting on his technique. The one that he learned is, wow, that's devastatingly effective, and and hard to counter. And yet at the same time, it's so simple. Even someone like Michelangelo can learn it within an afternoon. And so it sets up, you don't need to have him fight. His technique speaks for his skill. He's able to create a technique of amazing power, complexity, and yet ease of learning. So that explains why he's able to get like a whole bunch of ninjas to become a threat to these trained figures. His technique says he can do it.
Yeah, so if he were to show up in a future episode and be like really bungly, is that the word? But anyway,
bungly's a good enough word to use.
That would probably shatter your impression of it.
Shatter some of my praises.
It'd be interesting if like he showed up and he was in a wheelchair or something. It's like
that would be an interesting twist.
And like he could only project power through minions, sort of.
I could totally dig that. That would, if done right, I could totally dig that. That would be good.
Although he'd probably, like, this being the world of cartoons, he would probably have, like, a robot suit or something.
Well, the Krang character from the original series is now an entire alien race called the Krang, and they've got, like, bodies. So if Shredder winds up being a paraplegic or something, he could, like, steal a Krang body and then give himself new legs, and hey, he's working again.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't seen enough of the series to think. But it got to me, they rebooted the series a few times. And I do believe with the movie coming out, they'll have rebooted the series there. They did, actually, now that I think about it, they did a really weird version of the Mutant Turtles in Japanese. Really weird from what I saw. Very, very far removed from the original source. And they had like a live-action TV series for them somewhere. I never got a chance to see it, but I heard they were doing a TV series. Live-action style, people in suits.
Yeah.
So be it. And so, yeah, they keep rebooting the Ninja Turtles. And they've really seemed to be able to get it right when they get people who care and seem to get the concept of what the Turtles are about and really polish it to a nice shine.
Okay.
But you don't see that in a lot of other genres. You don't see people rebooting their books. It's like, the Harry Potter series was good, but now that I'm done with it, I'm able to realize there are some things I could have left out and some plots I wasn't able to work in. I could totally make happen now. So I'm going to start again with the first Harry Potter book rebooted.
Rebooted books. Yeah, I guess, what books go back far enough to be rebootable?
The Bible with the New Testament, maybe?
The Bible's been sort of rebooted in different ways because they do new versions.
Some deliberate mistranslations. Thou shalt not suffer a poisoner to live gets switched to a witch, and it totally changes who you're allowed to burn at the stake.
Interesting.
Yes. But it's not something you see on all genres, in all medias of fiction.
You could see, I think Shakespeare's stories are all reboots.
Definitely. They've been able to redo that in different
No, but I mean, like,
setups.
when he initially wrote... it's funny because what we have as Shakespeare is actually the words themselves are quite close to what Shakespeare actually wrote. But what he basically did is he took the stories that existed and he rebooted them. Like, each one was something that already existed in the culture. It was like, Romeo and Juliet was already a sort of a story, and he's like...
Or at least a theme they'd tell in a dozen different stories in a dozen different playhouses throughout London.
Yeah, and so all of these stories that already existed, basically Shakespeare is like, okay, I'll reboot this,
I see what works. This line really works for the tragedy of it, so I'm going to hype this up. And this one really doesn't seem to attract the masses, so I'll cut this side arc out. And so I'll only make a reference to Romeo dating her cousin earlier on, and such and so forth. And the next thing you know, he's got one of the greatest works of literature ever penned, apparently.
Yeah. And then it seems to have, yes, people redo the stories, but they always go back to, Shakespeare as the original is, you can't really reboot Shakespeare at this point. You can do your own versions, but it's not like, this is the new Shakespeare. It's like, this is our version of Shakespeare. Rather than, the Ninja Turtles, okay, now this is the Ninja Turtles. This new Ninja Turtles is the Ninja Turtles.
They're not really turtles. That's just a name for the mecha suits they wear. It's the turtle suit.
Yeah. So the canon follows the current day, seems to be, in at least with the things that we reboot nowadays.
But it just occurs to me, though, that this seems to be something that happens with more controlled characters, not public domain sort of things.
Okay.
Yeah. They did try to reboot Betty Boop in the 90s. It didn't go too well. They didn't really get what she was about. To be fair, she's not an easy one to pin down necessarily. She's not just a cartoon character. She works a lot with music, so she's like semi-music video stuff, albeit for Cab Calloway and the like.
I think this is the risk you take, though, with reboot, is that a lot of the time
they just don't get it.
Well, you can achieve some aspect, and you can think that you got what the original was about, but then other people will have seen something different in the original and be like, oh, that's nothing like it. Has no relation, and yet some aspect of it is very similar.
It looks the same, she sounds the same, but the stuff she does isn't the same.
But that's part of that is just because different people get different things out of the same work of art, like the same film or cartoon or whatever.
So then with the rebootable stuff, what meets with success, the first time they got the concept well enough, they're able to impart it to other people. Well, whereas the stuff that failed, that's like, I put this out and nobody really understood all of what I was trying to do, and so when they try to pick it up themselves, it's like a goop or a slime. They can't get it.
Yeah, and I like the Ninja Turtles for this reason, is because they feel very mythological. They feel like, you know, there's certain elements, like they're turtles. There's 4 parts to the name. Each part is important, and each part is sort of mythological, and it exists in that space in the minds of people. It's like, oh yeah, teenagers know what that is. Mutants, yeah, that's in the culture, and ninjas are in the turtles.
Especially on the internet culture, boy, do they know ninjas.
And then there's this whole mythology of, yeah, they live in the sewers and they eat pizza, and basically that makes the Ninja Turtles, right? Well,
I do find, as the reboots happen, they do get a chance to experiment with some characters. Like apparently the, what's the name of that guy who controls rats? The Rat King? I don't know if he had a different name than that. But in the original Malibu comics, he was just some crazy guy with rags that gets, I think he gets beat up and tossed down like a smokestack, and then he's gone. That's it. In the cartoon series, he becomes a recurring problem. And he shows up a little bit more, but he's not quite the same sort of level of I'm so crazy and out of it, you can't predict my style, sort of like I'm the Joker sort of mentality. So they get a chance to test out these characters in different lights, see what works, what doesn't, and then 3 or 4 reboots down the way, they've got so many characters that everyone goes, okay, I really like this version of this guy, that version of this one, and the third version of this guy, and so they all incorporate the best of, and so could you see the reboot then as like a continual refining process?
You can, but then there's also bold visionary people who are like, yeah, no, we're going to do this bad guy, but he's going to have nothing to do with the other guys. Like you have the person who wants to make the Superman movie, except he's like...
It's Nicolas Cage.
Well, I think this is Kevin Smith's story about the guy who's like, he's not going to fly, and we're never going to see the suit. And it's like, how is it? That can't be. Superman's got to fly, and he's got to have the suit.
Well, see, that's the thing. I was talking with somebody earlier this week about what makes a character thing, and I was thinking, and I mused out loud that with the Incredible Hulk, there's a lot of psychological aspects about it. Mm-hmm. The Hulk is the shard of Bruce Banner's personality that is incredibly upset at the fact that he had to help bury his mom after his dad killed her. And so not only did he see his mom get killed, have to hide it under threat of his dad, but he had to help bury his mom. And that's willing to shatter a person's brain, especially when they're a young kid. And so that's where the Hulk comes from. Emil Blonsky secretly hates himself. That's why when he gets bombarded by gamma rays, he becomes the Abomination, an ugly monster. That's his self-loathing coming out.
Okay.
And so the gamma radiation is this weird situation where your inner psyche, your inner what you see yourself to be, what you want to be, becomes physically extant. Which is why with She-Hulk, she always wanted to be more than just a mousy, lawyer. She became the voluptuous Amazon, and she's out and she's partying, and for a while she actually gets stuck as She-Hulk. She can't go back into the Jennifer normal human form because she just never wanted to.
Yeah.
And so you could actually portray a Hulk movie as a deep, intense, psychological thriller. But anybody who's seen the Avengers will know that's not why people are going to watch the Hulk. They're going to watch it for, serious physical comedy, because the Hulk is able to do the comedy you regularly see in cartoons.
Yeah.
The physical fights, and the occasional bit of brooding, Hulk is a monster, despite the fact he's actually a good guy deep down.
Yeah, that's what people want to see of the Hulk.
Although you could tell a very good story as a psychological, thriller. You could, if you did it right. I am adamant you could make a wonderful movie with the Hulk that really gets deep down into the psyche of the human mind.
Yeah.
But if you do it anything less than perfect, it's just gonna crash and burn.
I don't know, if you really wanted to tell that story,
I think Ang Lee got some very good points on it in the transformation sequences. Not a lot of people got that, though. They were expecting more direct movie. Hulk is not a subtle character, so they weren't expecting subtle, visual imagery. C'est la vie, I suppose.
Yeah. If you really wanted to tell like a fantastic Hulk story, though, you're probably better off just not touching the license and just creating your own version. Just saying, oh, it's the new Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, only...
Which is arguably what it's about, too, to some degree.
Yeah, it's a reboot of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So, like, make your own version of that story and just create your own character and let that be the story, rather than have to mess around
shoehorn
with
into what you got. You can get for a license.
Because, I think that's a major problem plaguing these comic book movies is, yes, they seem to be doing well, but they also have all these niggling issues about what rights they own and which characters can appear in which movies. And
I know, I would have loved to have seen Spider-Man in an Avengers movie. I would have loved to have seen Wolverine in an Avengers movie. I would have loved to have seen Logan in the Captain America movie.
Yeah.
Because according to the current continuity, yes, Wolverine as Corporal Logan was in World War II, and he was with the Howling Commandos.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
I would have loved to have seen just a nice scene with, Captain America frees the Howling Commandos, and then, they've got the one Corporal Logan character, just happens to be played by Hugh Jackman, say, sorry, Bob, I got other places to be. I'm out on deployment with the Canadian forces. Catch you around. Smokes a stogie, off he walks. The hardcore fans would have gone just absolutely foaming at the mouth, insane at that scene.
Back to hardcore fandom.
Well, it's one of those things that you can really get. Maybe some people would. Hugh Jackman's playing that guy. He looks kind of like the Wolverine character. Did they actually mean for that to be Wolverine? Whereas the hardcore fan was, they actually managed to include Wolverine in a Captain America World War II thing. It's awesome.
Well, we've been talking for over 90 minutes.
All right. So then, a quick ruling then. The reboot, not bad, but it only tends to work on the really established visual characters then? Because it seems to be movies and
iconic.
Comics.
You need an iconic element, I think.
Because Lord knows they do enough reboots in the comics. So there has to be something about the visual thing then? That's why it doesn't necessarily work with books?
Oh, why not with books? Yeah, who knows? I don't know why not with books. It's just a different media. I don't think we've come to a conclusion in this episode, but perhaps...
We may have to do some hunting and searching to see if anybody has rebooted their series with a book.
Yeah.
Yeah, with because, sometimes they do it with graphic novels on certain indie stuff, but that all tends to roll itself into the comics, so it might just be a visual thing that allows for a reboot.
I actually did have an idea the other day about rebooting the Bible, and I decided, you get a lot of complaints about how the Bible has, kind of gory stuff in it, and kind of people, it's not really good moral lessons for everybody. But I was thinking, well, maybe you could reboot the Bible and just change all the stories so that each story had an actual, clear moral lesson about how you were supposed to behave. That would be kind of worthwhile doing. But then it'd be God turns out he doesn't create the tree of knowledge of good and evil because that would be bad. He just doesn't let them have it. But then nothing in human history happens, so I don't know.
Well, it might be interesting to tell a story like that way, is to show that, if it came up with everything doing perfect, it would completely have turned out different, and thus, you wouldn't have the religion at all. So that might be an interesting work, like some of those politically correct parables I know they used to have out there.
Oh, yeah.
Which were actually not that bad. It's a decent way of rereading an old story, as a reboot goes. Mm-hmm. So yes, which is about the only literary reboot I've ever been able to think of since this idea first started tumbling around in my mind earlier in the week.
Yeah.
But yes, if anyone out there actually does know of a book series of at least even middling level of popularity that rebooted itself, I'd dig to get a copy of this information. Don't need to send the books, just send us a link, just send us a mention of which series this is. Maybe we can hunt it down ourselves.
That's right, and you can send that suggestion to thesimulationist@gmail.com or post it as a post on our Facebook page. You should be able to comment on their Facebook page or in YouTube, which we also have, or anywhere else you find this podcast, and there's a box to put comments. Thank you so much for listening this week. I've been Josh Treleaven.
I've still been Ryan Kirkby.
Okay, send us money.